Hey guys, today I want to introduce you to Bytedance's latest two new models inside Flora, Seedream and Seedance. Seedream 3.0 is a text-to-image model that creates super high-res images in less than 3 seconds, and it has a strong handling of bilingual text, layout, and complex scenes. As a text-to-image model, prompting is extremely important, and I want to give you some tips on prompting for Seedream. I have summarized from their official documentation on a small bite-sized prompting guideline for Seedream. The first token that you need to input is style and medium. This helps define the general style and the overall artistic approach. This should be followed by subject description and some natural language describing the environmental context. To better define the style, you can also describe technical photography parameters, including the model of the camera and in what kind of light is it captured. Let's move on to some examples. For this specific generation, I started using experimental to describe the style and atmosphere. The medium here is a film still, which I included in the first token of the prompt. After style medium, I started using very detailed natural language to describe the subject and environmental context. It is also important to describe how you want the light to be casted. And then I added 16mm film as a camera type to lock in on my visual aesthetics, and finishing the entire prompt with some general mood and emotional tone. I used the same prompting strategy to create this very cinematic and filmic shot of a person brushing teeth. What I emphasized here is how the light is interacting with the subject matter, and also the type of the cinematic camera used in this specific generation. Here I mentioned Sony Venice 2 with Canon K35 wide length to create a very cinematic feel. Also described the shot type as medium wide shot and described the composition. I finished the prompt with a description of the emotional tone. Another example where I started with hyper-realistic black and white digital photography to describe the medium and style, and then started describing the subject matter, which are two human shadows, along with the environment that it is being captured in. I also specified that it's shot on Leica M6 with 35mm lens with black and white L4 400 film. Moving on to the next example, where I'm describing a specific installation inside a space, with details signifying the structure, followed by the type of camera that I want this to be captured with. Now I'm going to move on to Seedance. Seedance is a text and image to video model where the prompt follows clear camera instruction with the capacity to create native multi-shot generations. I'm going to briefly introduce some basic camera movement. Here I prompted tracking medium shot as the shot type and the subject matter as a pigeon as it weaves through the crowd. As you can see, it has a very smooth rendering of motion and environment. Here I'm using the exact same prompt with the same camera type while adding on a very specific location. The model processed environmental change really well as well. Here I'm changing the specific location to the subway while keeping everything else consistent with the same shot type and the same prompt. The way the model processes scale is also very accurate. Here's another example with a different kind of camera angle, which is the low angle shot. The model preserves the camera angle and motion pretty well as the motion of the subject matter changes throughout the scene. Here's another example of adding a lot of details into the prompt, using some keyword to highlight the motion of the subject matter and also the environment. I also added a constraint for camera angle to be fixed. Giving more details on the camera angle and the motion of the camera always help with creating a more accurate representation that's closer to your vision. Here I also explore transferring the video with the same prompt using different style. This one is a stop motion claymation that I included in the beginning of the prompt, while keeping all the rest of the prompt exactly the same. And for this one, I added in the style of anime, while keeping the rest of the prompts identical. Here's some more camera movement and camera angle that I incorporated into the prompt. And as you can see, the camera movement can be very dynamic to adapt as the subject matter moves. You can also choose to start the prompt with a sentence of description of the overall setting, describing the style and the environment of the shot. Last but not least, I want to introduce the multi-shot storytelling capacity of Seedance. Inside the same prompt for a generation, you can incorporate different type of shot to coherently create one sequence. Here, I'm using the image I just generated with Seedream, and I want to turn it into a sequence consisting multiple shots. Arrange my prompt in the structure of the different type of shot that I wanted to use. I used bracket to highlight the different kind of shot that I wanted to use. For this specific example, I wanted to use a median shot, also specifying the transition, which is cut to the over shoulder shot. And the last shot is cut to an extreme close-up. I experimented different numbers of shot that I could incorporate. I found out that the model takes up to 3 different kind of shot within the same prompt. If exceeding 3, the model gets a little confused. So I suggest you keep the number of shot within 3 and highlighting the transition between each. A tip is to include the shot type inside the bracket and then followed by the subject matter and motion of the shot. I hope this video is helpful to you, and it's time for you to try Seedance and Seedream inside Flora Editor.